6 mysterious metal spheres have turned up in Australia, and the authorities wouldn't let anyone even get close to them. Now it's clear that these spheres came from outer space. We're going to take a very close look at this today, and we'll dive right in. Imagine you're taking an exciting weekend stroll along the beach in Queensland, Australia, and suddenly there's a metal ball lying in the sand, shiny, heavy, and about twice the size of a basketball. What would be your first reaction? Would you take a closer look first, or would you call the authorities right away? Feel free to let me know in the comments. I'm really curious to hear what you do, and if mysterious stories like this fascinate you as much as they do me, feel free to subscribe to the channel. It's free, and you'll always get a notification when something new happens.
And if you've already subscribed, a thumbs up really helps the video. 5,000 likes should be enough to appease the YouTube algorithm. Thank you so much, everyone, and now off to the coastal town of Forrest Beach in Australia. That's where the mysterious metal spheres came down, and not just once, but 6 times. That's what the local news reported.
The National Security Room is overseeing an investigation in North Queensland after mysterious canisters washed up on a secluded beach near Ingham. While initially thought to be harmless space junk, there are fears it's more sinister as authorities try to work out where it came from and what to do with it.
Guided only by torchlight, dressed in hazmat suits, emergency crews scoop a large metallic ball across the sand at Forrest Beach. The local fish and chip shop taking off with the space junk snack box.
I really like the bit about the fish and chip shop. It makes me hungry right away. But the Queensland Fire Department took it a bit more seriously and arrived after residents reported the strange objects on the shore. And what do you do when you suddenly find mysterious metal spheres? Right, you start by cordoning off a large area.
A 3-kilometer safety zone has been established around the discovery site, and specialized scientific teams have been securing the objects throughout the weekend. However, their origin and nature remain completely unclear for now. To me, this all sounds like the beginning of a science fiction movie. Maybe this thing really did come to Earth from another world.
And a few days later, the Australian Space Agency then actually confirmed, yes, the spheres come from space. Unbelievable. Before anyone starts bringing up the alien theory, I'm afraid I have to disappoint you. The origin is much more earthly than it might first sound.
They are most likely pressure vessels from a launch vehicle, that is, sturdy tanks in which gases or liquids were stored under high pressure during launch or in orbit. The Australian Space Agency put it this way in an official statement. The recovered objects appear to be pressure vessels from a launch vehicle. Their design suggests they are debris from a foreign rocket. And these spheres are by no means the first of their kind to have fallen from the sky. Space debris is actually a much bigger problem than most people realize. Old satellites, empty fuel tanks, even tiny paint chips from rockets. All of this is merely orbiting above our heads. According to the US Space Force, the number of tracked space debris objects rose by over 100% from 2013 to 2024, from 23,000 to over 47,000 tracked objects, and those are just the pieces large enough to be detected at all. NASA estimates that millions more small pieces of debris are orbiting Earth unnoticed. The good news is that the vast majority of these objects burn up completely upon re-entry into the atmosphere or crash into uninhabited regions, mostly in the oceans. But sometimes a component survives the fiery ride through the atmosphere and lands where you least expect it. Australia has already had experience with this. 4 years ago, a large piece of debris was found on the north coast that was later definitively identified as coming from a SpaceX Dragon capsule. And there was a very similar case in the US as well. In January 2024, a farmer in North Carolina discovered an unknown object on his property that also turned out to be debris from a Dragon capsule.
I'm sitting here beside a piece of large space debris that is believed to come off of a SpaceX Crew Dragon service module, what SpaceX refers to as a trunk. It was discovered here along the Sunset Summit Trail at the Glamping Collective in Canton, North Carolina. The groundskeeper was out performing his duties on the trail and discovered this on May 22nd. As you can see, it's a large piece of metal and carbon fiber. It's amazing so much of it survived re-entry, and it's really thankful it didn't fall on anybody or any property.
Space junk has now built up quite an impressive travel record. And speaking of impressive travel records, our fascination with mysterious metal spheres has also come a long way. Just last year, a very similar sphere made headlines in Booga, Colombia.
Reportedly without any visible welds and featuring strange symbols on its surface. To this day, it remains unclear whether this is actually space debris or simply an elaborate prank. And going back much further, in the midst of World War II, the New York Times reported in December 1944 on shiny silver spheres that American pilots claimed to have observed over German territory. At the time, they were thought to be a new German wonder weapon.
Even the American Department of Defense officially confirmed a few years ago that small spherical objects in particular make up a large part of all reported sightings of unidentified flying objects. So spheres seem to have been fueling our collective imagination for decades, whether in the sky over Europe or quite mundanely on a beach in Australia. But the really exciting question here, in my view, is how dangerous is the whole thing actually for us down here? Marlon Sorge, who heads the Center for Orbital and Reentry Debris Studies at the Aerospace Corporation, explains,
awareness of this entire issue of re-entry risk has increased significantly. Many operators are deliberately designing their satellites so that nothing dangerous, or very little that is dangerous, remains. We must ensure that we implement guidelines and risk mitigation measures to prevent these objects from becoming a problem. This is extremely important because some debris races through space at speeds of up to 29,000 kilometers per hour. That's almost 7 times faster than a rifle bullet. If such a piece of debris strikes an active satellite, a single collision can create hundreds of new pieces of debris, which in turn trigger further collisions. The European Space Agency has recorded over 650 such fragmentation events in orbit since 1961, and this has consequences of galactic proportions. I'm not exaggerating. The so-called Kessler syndrome describes a potential chain reaction in Earth's orbit. When two satellites or larger pieces of debris collide, numerous new fragments are created, which in turn cause further collisions. At a certain point, the amount of space debris could continue to increase on its own, rendering individual orbits virtually unusable for decades or longer. And sometimes, this Kessler syndrome is even discussed as an explanation for the Fermi paradox. The idea is that technological civilizations could eventually fill their own orbit with debris to such an extent that further space travel becomes extremely dangerous, trapping them on their home planet.
aliens, and eventually us too, could have just completely cluttered themselves with trash in orbit. And yet before you start panicking, being hit by a piece of debris is statistically extremely unlikely. The chance is less than 1 in a trillion. For comparison, you have a much better chance of being struck by lightning than being hit by a falling rocket part. That somehow doesn't sound as reassuring as I had intended. But nevertheless, there have actually been a few documented cases of injuries in the past.
Among others, a boy in China who was struck by a rocket fragment in 2002, and a woman in Oklahoma who is considered the first verified case ever of someone being struck by space debris.
We saw this big ball of fire come racing across the sky, and I also saw a spark come off of it.
At first, Lottie thought the metal could be remnants from a shooting star. Later, researchers would confirm with this letter the debris is actually part of a Delta II rocket.
More and more companies are now developing strategies to prevent exactly such incidents. SpaceX, for instance, is consistently focusing on reusable rockets. Other companies are even building small robotic arms designed to actively retrieve dead satellites from orbit. That doesn't solve the problem, but awareness of it seems to be growing. But let's briefly return to Down Under. Authorities currently believe that there may still be other pieces of debris in the region, so if any of you happen to be traveling through Queensland right now and a shiny metal ball rolls your way, whether on the beach or in the middle of the forest, don't touch it, folks. The Australian Space Agency expressly warns against touching or moving suspicious objects yourself, since you can never know for sure what substances were stored inside them.
Instead, keep your distance and inform the relevant authorities. Ultimately, the Forrest Beach story is a great example of how closely our daily lives are now interwoven with space, mostly without us even noticing. Tens of thousands of pieces of debris are circling above our heads, and every now and then one of them reminds us directly of this fact by crashing right at our feet. I'll keep you updated on all further developments regarding space junk. So leave a subscription for the channel now so you don't miss anything, and remember to give a thumbs up so we can hit 5,000 likes. And if space junk has already impressed you, then I have something else for you.
A record was set in nuclear fusion, in Germany to be exact. The Wendelstein reactor in Greifswald could change the planet's energy production forever. To find out exactly what happened there and why this is a huge step for the future of energy supply, check out the video in the top right corner. Be sure to take a look, it's very, very exciting. In the bottom right corner, you'll find another topic related to science and space. Otherwise, I'd say see you in the next video. Take care, everyone.